Welcome to the How to Build a Multi-Million Dollar Company Without Venture Capital webinar. We have a lot of information to cover in today's session, so let's dive right in. First, we'll start off with who this is for. This is perfect for people that are ready to build their own business, regardless of the industry you're in, regardless of the complexity of the idea, or whether or not you even have an idea yet. If you want to start your own company, you are in the right place. This is also perfect for those that have an existing business but want to grow that business. If you're looking for ideas, strategies, techniques to be able to accelerate the growth of an existing business to achieve the results you've always wanted, then this is perfect for you as well. Also, if you're stuck in a situation where, let's say, you've got a business that's not achieving what you want it to achieve, you're looking for that next level of growth, that breakthrough, this is definitely a seminar or a webinar that'll get you the ideas you're looking for. And finally, if you're stuck in a dead-end job and you're in a situation to where you're unappreciated, your boss is not looking out for you, and you've got talent, and you're looking for a way to recognize your full potential, and you're open to starting your own business, this is definitely for you. Over the next 45 minutes, we're going to cover a lot, so get ready. Most people looking to start their own company get stuck because they have no idea where to begin. So as part of the agenda, we're going to address that head on. That includes chief issues that hold people back from starting their own business and realizing their dreams of entrepreneurship. The most important part about building a business is turning it into a cash-producing machine as quickly as possible. So we'll talk about how to turn your idea into revenue extremely quickly and with an 80 to 90% success rate. If you heard about the concept of disruptive thinking, then we're going to share with you key questions to ask to allow you to do this effectively within your industry. This will allow you to outpace your competition and outsell them, no matter if they're bigger than you, they've got more money than you, and they've got an existing advantage in the marketplace. You can do all this without taking months to build your business and without having to raise venture capital. We'll talk about how. The chief benefit we offer is showing you the fastest, most powerful way to build your business with the least amount of risk, which leads to our commitment to you. The commitment I offer is to give you a step-by-step guide and strategy to build your own business in the fastest way possible with the least amount of risk. The concepts we cover are practical, they're achievable, and they will allow you to achieve your dreams if you implement them. By way of background, so you know who you're speaking with today, I've started nearly 20 companies over the last several decades. I've turned some into multi-million-dollar ATM machines that just churn out cash. I've grown others from nothing to the $10 million level in preparation for an exit event. And most recently, I've grown one company from 10 million to roughly 80 million and another from less than 10 million to over $500 million in value. Now, why is this relevant? Well, chances are I've been where you are now, and I can show you the fastest path to get to where you want to be. If that's owning your own company to create freedom for you and your family, if that's getting out from under a dead-end job where you're not appreciated, or if that's simply to set up a retirement pathway so you'll not have to worry about money when you retire. I've done this so many times that I've developed a series of techniques and approaches to optimize the process of building a company from the ground up. Stick with us over the next 45 minutes and we'll show you the fastest way to get started. Also, if you have any questions as we go through the material, please post those in the Q&A section of the webinar, and we'll cover those at the end of the session. Let's go ahead and cover a couple ground rules or parameters for success, if you will. First of all, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Just because it's simple doesn't mean you'll get rich overnight. It just doesn't work that way. These results take time, even after you fully optimize your approach. But I can promise you that by following our systems, you'll get results somewhere between 3 and 10 times more quickly than doing it yourself. We've outlined here a growth path timeline. On average, the startups I'm part of take somewhere between 3 to 5 years to get built, established, and ready for an exit event. Now, the exit event could be liquidity, selling the company, doing a merger acquisition, something like that. That's the point at which you can recognize the maximum amount of value from your business. The first year is getting the business established and building customers. That's the name of the game in the first 12 months. Revenue, revenue, revenue. Those of you that follow the steps and show commitment will build a company with $1 million in annual revenue within the first 12 months. If I say that differently, you'll be generating north of $80,000 per month in revenue after your first year in business. Those of you that start this process while holding down a full-time job might take you a little longer. You might take 18 months. But once you get somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000 in monthly revenue, I can promise you, you're going to want to quit your job and put your full-time focus towards your company. Now, many of you are probably thinking right now, hey, there's no way this is going to happen. That seems a little outlandish, a little bit fast in the time scale. Let me tell you this. Building a company to $1 million in revenue in 12 months is easy. It is not hard, folks. You only think it's hard because you haven't done it yet. But once you've done it several times, or you found someone that can show you how to do it, you'll come around and you realize this really isn't that hard. You know what I think's hard? Holding down a full-time job for 40 or 50 years and being miserable the whole time. I mean, when you compare that to building a business, this entire thing is easy. And there's a formula for it, and it's replicable. To be able to pull it off, though, you've got to be prepared to get outside your comfort zone. Building a business is a lot of work, but nothing can happen until you take that first step. To do that, you'll need to be a little uncomfortable, and that's okay. The other thing that stops people from starting out is apathy. They look at the competition or how hard it is to get started. They just give up, figuring, hey, what's the point? And the way I see it, you're going to put in the work regardless. The question is whether you take what seems like the easy path and work until your 60s or 70s in a meaningless job, or if you're prepared to step up, grab the world by the neck, and devote the next 3 to 5 years to creating a business of your own that will set you free. But here's the catch. Ultimately, you're going to need to take action to make this happen. I'm here to tell you, if you want success, you've got to get out there and make it happen. No one is going to do it for you. But the good news, we can show you the fastest and easiest path forward to make the process much, much easier. Now, here's the final thing that we've got just in terms of laying the foundation for the webinar. You've got to be serious about success. This program works, but it only works for those that take it seriously. You've got to want to be successful as a very first step. I've had the privilege of working with exceptional people and exceptional entrepreneurs. What makes them exceptional isn't that they're geniuses or even that they're smarter than you or me. It's just they take the steps that are in front of them, they follow them, and they take the program seriously. If you leverage your strengths, if you agree to take action rather than just read books and online academic materials, I promise you'll be successful. The most important part about building a company is getting started. Believe it or not, some of the best ideas in the world die on the vine because the person behind them didn't take those first steps. There are a variety of reasons for this, so let's explore the most common ones. The iceberg depicted in this picture shows some of the common issues that lie above the surface, if you will, and also some of the common issues that lie hidden underneath the water level. The deeper the issue, the harder it is to get past. Let's look at the statistics for a moment. In a survey of Inc. 500 readers in 2015, 48% of the survey participants said they don't think they can raise enough money to start their own business. That's half of all good ideas gone because of the perceived lack of funding. 40% said they don't have an idea, which probably means they don't think it's good enough. Over 20% said they may not have the right skills. Over 20% said the failure rate scared them off. And the rest of these are less than 20% of the responses. But the statistics don't matter when it comes to your business. You're here to defy the odds, am I right? The question is, what can stop you? You know yourself better than anyone. Do any of these relate to you? The reason I ask is it's important to know which areas you're predisposed to have slow you down or stop you. If you know what those are, then you can more easily defeat them. In the end, if you boil it down to the basic issues with the majority of the people, you'll find 3 trends that stop us from realizing our dreams. Funding, the idea, and fear of failure. Those show up here in the statistics, and that's a recurring theme with people I talk to. And if you boil that down even further, you'll find there's really only one thing that stops us from stepping into the abyss and really realizing our dreams. That's the unknown. Uncertainty and the unknown can be defined as the great paralyzers, and they defeat many brilliant people. Many of us hit the crossroads and we don't know where to turn, and we get stuck. But once you know what to do, then the path forward becomes clear. Doubt moves from your mind, your head clears, and you move forward. If you're to be successful as an entrepreneur, you've got to be comfortable stepping into the depths of the unknown and becoming the light in the darkness. So let's say we get you past the fear of the unknown. The reality is that 90% of startups fail. That's the number we see, and that's scary. The million-dollar question is, why do they fail? The answer is simple. They're not following a process that works. The ones that fail are following the same process that 90% of the other people follow. They're figuring it out as they go along, which is going to lead you to failure most of the time. Let's be honest. The business world is tough and unforgiving. You can't make many mistakes. If you're going to grow a multi-million-dollar business in the space of a year and $1 billion business in the space of 5 years, you've got to execute with precision. And that requires knowing how to play the game. The ones that succeed know how to play the game and how to win. In fact, you can compare it to playing a video game for the first time. Imagine, if you will, the first time you played a really challenging game. When you first fired it up, you had no idea what you were doing and you played poorly, which makes sense because you'd never done it before. But after you'd played the game 10, 20, 30 or more times, you started to figure out all the tricks, all the strategies. The difference between the first time you played that game and the last is that you knew all the tricks. Growing a business is just like playing a complex video game. If you know all the tricks and all the strategies, you can ace the game every time. But starting a company without knowing all the tricks of the trade is like playing a video game for the very first time and expecting to win it without ever dying. Is it possible? Sure, maybe people have done it. And we read about those 1 in a million situations and they inspire us. But the truth is that those situations are extremely rare. Not following a defined, successful approach is like playing Russian roulette with your money. You may get lucky once or twice, but the odds are stacked against you and eventually things will go badly. Once you follow the processes that work for successful serial entrepreneurs, then you'll get the same results they do. Those that are good at starting and growing companies have a success rate of around 80 or 90%, depending upon how many they've built. There's a process for fleshing out your idea to make sure it makes sense, that the market will accept it, and that there's a demand for it. There's a process for incorporating disruption into your product, service, or technology to make sure you can overcome competition consistently and profitably. There's of course a process for managing cash flow and your money. Making money is one thing, but you've got to make sure you're turning a profit or your company will die by slowly bleeding out. When you really get it dialed in, there's even a process for assessing risks and determining the best time to take action. The best thing you can do is learn how to play the game. Once you have the playbook for how to run the game, you can win, or at least 80 to 90% of the time. Because people, it's not that hard. None of this is rocket science. It just takes someone who's played the game before, beaten it, and then gone back and played it again. Just because they like playing the game and they like winning it. You find that person, you learn from that person, and you'll also win the game. This is the way to beat the 90% failure rate, folks. Now you know. So heed my advice and go and do likewise, or the consequences will be utterly tragic. For the atomic failure clown waits for you around every corner. Now that we've talked about the need to follow a playbook, let's get into the specifics. We're going to cover 3 major mindset shifts that you can make to become a successful entrepreneur. If you make these shifts, then your business will begin to explode and take off, even if you have a day job that you're holding down to pay the bills. And just remember, as we go through this, building a multi-million-dollar business is super easy if you know the path and you stick to the path. So we'll start with the right idea. You've got to make sure that you've got a big idea and that you're passionate about it. To turn your business into a rocket ship and get it off the launch pad, you've got to have a viable idea and it's got to meet several core criteria. First and foremost, your idea must address some kind of demand in the world. You've got to understand this demand from the perspective of your buyer. Know why the world demands it and get really clear on why it is needed. Specifically, focus on that big problem you're solving. The more you understand about the problem, the deeper your solutions can go. And next, you've got to make sure that your idea is within your strike zone. This is a mistake a lot of people make. You've got to make sure your idea is something you understand because you'll need to do it better than your competitors. If you've got expertise within the product or service you're offering, then you'll be 10 times to 100 times more powerful than your competition because you'll be able to see several steps ahead of them. Next, make sure your idea has massive growth potential. You should be able to generate $1 million in revenue per year as a minimum. Don't really ever set your sights lower than that, or your business may not be strong enough to thrive. Finally, make sure you see a way to add more value than competitors with your idea. That's the kicker. You've got to be unique. You've got to add value. You got to ask yourself, how can you offer more to your potential customers than your competitors? At the center of this is arguably the most important part. You've got to make sure that this idea allows you to do what you love, what you're truly passionate about. That's part of the magic formula, so don't dismiss it. When you find the right fit, you can work on it all day long and it won't feel like work. Plus, you'll enjoy what you're doing, which means you'll understand it more completely and be better at it than anyone else. If you're passionate about what you're doing, you'll be better at it than those that aren't, which means you'll build mastery at that skill and crush anyone else that opposes you. It is the absolute best place to start when building a business. When you're doing what you love, then being the best comes as naturally as flight to an eagle. Just having an idea is not good enough, though. We're now going to talk about a concept called disruptive entrepreneurship. This is where you harden your idea to make sure it's really dialed in. It goes beyond just tweaking what you've already come up with, though. You've really got to explore the potential evolution of the idea, where the idea can go over time, how the idea can potentially change your customer's business, change the industry, or even change the world. We're going to analyze the concept of disruption. Everybody talks about it, but we need you to go out there and actually do it. Thinking disruptively is really hard at first. It's not something most of us do by default, and there's not a wealth of information on there on how to think disruptively. But I can tell you, this is one of the secrets to building a rapidly growing, scaling business. You have to be able to disrupt your own idea. Force yourself to look at your idea through the eyes of a competitor and to think about it as if you're competing with yourself. This will make your idea that much stronger and viable into the future. Let's review a couple short techniques to get you started as part of the playbook. Once you become good at this, it will only take a few minutes to disrupt an existing idea. Once you get great at it, you'll be able to do it within 30 seconds. And that is ultimate power because you'll be able to constantly outmaneuver your competition, especially if they're bigger than you. Because the bigger they are, the harder it is for them to execute quickly. So here's the secret formula that allows you to create a 3-phase idea to crush the market. First, you've got your idea upon the startup of your company. That's what we'll call your core idea. And then you ask yourself a simple question. How do I achieve 100x growth from here? That question, and that is the only question, that will lead you to your version 2 innovation. How do you build upon that idea? What do you do from there? That's going to allow you to explore 3 core components as part of that V2 innovation: automation, replication, and innovation. Those are 3 very powerful tools and concepts that will lead you to your version 3 innovation, which is ultimately where you ask yourself, how do I create recurring revenue and productize? And we'll talk about the power of that. But first and foremost, let's dive into the automate, replicate, innovate ideas around V2 because there's a great amount of power there, and I'd really like to spend some time walking you through each one of these. Let's look at automation. What does that really mean? Well, technology, if we look at it that way, can automate almost anything these days. In the past, we used to hail cabs or call shuttles to pick us up, and outside New York City, this was a fairly annoying and often expensive process. Today, we click on an Uber app on our phone, no matter what city we're in, and the car uses GPS technology to know where to pick us up. In most major cities, you have your own personal driver pull up in front of you within 3 to 5 minutes, automatically, after just pushing a button in an app. Even the payment's automated. Uber's able to grow their business without additional staff and without taking calls from customers because they've automated all of that. You can automate by asking what about your business is redundant and painful. If 75% of what you're doing is fundamentally the same, even if each client is different, then find a way to automate each of those fundamentals. Every hour per week you automate is real money, real savings. It's a step towards unlocking a truly scalable business. Now let's talk about replication. Once you've created something, leverage it. So many people miss this concept. Let's use Apple as another example. They had created the iOS operating system for iPhones. They looked at ways to grow their revenue by 100x. So they replicated their iOS platform and all the apps from their app store to a brand new product called the iPad. They were able to not only replicate the software, the apps, but the hardware components as well to create a brand new product. So how do we take recurring revenue and productize the idea? You have to think about how a billionaire would grow your company, assuming they have no limits on them whatsoever. What would they do to think outside the box for your business to grow it big and to grow it fast? So one of the questions that comes up, how do I create recurring revenue and productize? And what does it even mean to productize? If you're looking at the potential of your business through the lens of hourly charges, you're limited by the amount of time you have and your staff has. But you've got the ability now more than ever to expand your income potential by productizing your offerings. And let's look at an example. That's probably the best way to describe it. Let's say you run an IT shop and it provides computer network, consulting, and repair services. I've worked with a lot of these groups over the years, and it always amazes me how they view their earning potential as tied to their staff and the hours they can bill. That limits them naturally. But now more than ever, they need to think about ways to productize their offering. So instead of saying, we'll fix your network for $125 an hour, they need to think about ways to get a variety of customers on retainer for a fixed monthly amount. So instead of focusing on billable hours and having feast and famine, you're focused on the total number of customers you have and their experience. You may end up charging them $5,000 a month for each customer and picking up 20 customers. Now you're supporting 20 businesses and you're making $100K a month regardless of the number of hours you work. Now the best part of this is that the customer sees it as a great bargain because they're only paying $60,000 a year and they've got a small army of experts that are at their beck and call whenever they want them to be. But to truly productize the offering, you need to go beyond that because you don't want to limit your business to just $100,000 of earnings potential per month. So next, you look at the products you can offer and offer to those customers to solve their problems, their big problems, remember, and make their lives easier. So let's say ransomware is a huge concern your customers have. Now, you go out, you find an excellent product that your team can resell to protect those customers from ransomware. You become a reseller, you white label the product with your company's name and logo, and you start selling it as your solution. The idea is to find ways to productize your offering, to make a product out of it, and use that for recurring revenue. Recurring revenue not only increases the stability of your startup, but when you go to sell the company, your multipliers are much higher, guys. You'll get a lot more money at an exit event if you have recurring revenue than the business next door with an upfront sales model or even a services model. Just to put that in perspective, software companies with an upfront license fee can probably command 2 to 3 times annual earnings as their exit valuation. But software as a service companies with recurring revenue can command 10 to 20 times earnings, particularly if they've got a really strong product or a business model that's been productized. This is what disruptive entrepreneurship is all about. It's about finding the fastest way possible to position your idea and your company for rapid, unstoppable success. Now we're going to talk about what our company, Unicorn Fuel, calls the speed run. It's the secret weapon that's going to take you from 0 to 60 miles per hour in record time. A speed run, simply put, is the fastest way to go from an idea to revenue. It's based on a series of simple steps that you can run extremely quickly to determine whether or not your product or service will sell in the marketplace. And it works really, really well. If you start with a speed run, your chances of success in business immediately soar to north of 50%. And if you continue these practices and execute on them for 2 months solid, then your chances of success go to 75%. It doesn't require significant capital or a significant investment, nor does it require you to spend months on end building a company before you know whether or not your idea will sell. It's a very specific blueprint for success that can tell you exactly how to build out your business. Remember, the most successful entrepreneurs are those who have done it before. It's not their first company. We have to find a way to replicate that knowledge here for you so that you get the same results they would. But it goes beyond knowledge. You've got to do what they would do. The speed run will spell out the straight line path to success and allow you to avoid the pitfall of failures. But before we break down how the speed run works, let's look at the old way of doing things. Conventional wisdom teaches us that you need to build a website and then invest heavily in SEO so your website's picked up by Google and others. Because if you're not on Google, you don't exist. And to help with that, you need to create a high traffic blog, a Twitter account. You need to get your content out on the internet so people can recognize you and your presence. You need to post daily podcasts. Oh, and you got to dominate LinkedIn with a killer profile. By the way, you got to create endless YouTube videos because that's important. You need to build a presence on Instagram and Snapchat and Pinterest. And there's lots of demographics out there, so those are important. You got to capture those. Then there's referrals. You got to build your business through word of mouth. And if you do all of that and sprinkle in magic pixie dust, make sure the stars are in the correct alignment and the startup fairy comes to visit you in the middle of the night, then boom, you'll get clients. But what's wrong with this picture, folks? It takes a ton of time to stand up, and there's no clear success formula to make it work. There's no silver bullet at all. There's got to be a better way. This is the world of instant gratification. You deserve better, and your customers don't want to take hours and hours reading all of your content just to get their needs met, right? They want something fast that hits the heart of their needs. And you need something fast to prove that your business works before you waste all that time and money. A speed run is the ideal way to build your business. We can shortcut all the distractions and focus on getting the job done. And by that, just to be clear, I only mean one thing: generate revenue. Amidst all the websites and the blogs and the videos, we've missed out on one core principle. Your business is there to generate money. So maybe that's what we should focus on. And we should do it fast because good speedrunners have no patience. So do away with the conventional wisdom of, if you build it, they will come, because they probably won't. Let's spend our time focused on a faster, safer way. Rather than building mountains of content that your audience may or may not need, focus like a laser on what they do need, a solution to their problem. This is really important. Your customers must see that you understand the big problem they're facing. All right, so here are the steps. First, make sure your business has the potential for at least $1 million in annual revenue. Now, we create 3 simple ads to put on social media. We'll also create a web-based landing page. The workflow is really short and simple. We place our ads on social media, takes the user to the landing page, and then we'll run our ads in the real world to see how many people we can get to buy our products or services. Now, before we get into details, let me say, this sounds really basic and simplistic, but the details are where this program lives or dies. So pay attention to the details of what we're about to discuss, execute on them, and you'll get almost instant results. Now, let's talk about how this works. First of all, it's really fast. It can be done in a weekend, and it's designed to be very singular in the sense that if it passes, great, you move forward. If it doesn't, you very surgically and very unemotionally cut it, dump it, and move on, or reevaluate. So as we're looking at our ads, here's the basic formula. Keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it. You should state the big problem so they can relate to you. You should acknowledge it's not working for them. Maybe even give them a call to action so they can fix it, and tell them why they should use you to fix it. It's very straightforward. To do this, your tools should be the ads themselves. You want to use at least 3 ads with different messages. This is because some ad campaigns work better than others, and no matter how much research you do, trust me on this, you'll never know which are the most effective until you run them. So you want to make sure there's enough diversity to get an impact and capture a large audience. If you show people that you understand their problem, they'll believe that you can solve it, and they'll respond. So let's talk about the landing page next. You need to build a landing page. Here are the best practices that you should not deviate from. Make sure it addresses their problem in more detail than the ad. Think of this as a further explanation of your understanding of the problem. There are 2 primary schools of thought around this. One is to create a long, detailed landing page that pulls the viewer into the problem and fleshes out the solution in extreme detail. The other is to keep it very short, sweet, and focused. And both work. If you're going to get into detail, though, then make sure you do not list out those details in a long narrative paragraph form. You'll lose your reader. They just don't have that long of attention span. Rather, you need to list out the major subject headings with short descriptions below that. Other best practices, the landing page should match your brand, such as color scheme and logo if you've got those already. There should only be one link on the whole page, and this is important. One link, folks. That's the call to action button. You can have a countdown timer. A lot of folks do this. It is optional, but it has been proven to increase the sense of urgency around your call to action. So a lot of landing page companies recommend those. If you can gather testimonials, a single piece of video footage, or a single piece of audio to put on your landing page, that's perfect. It's not required, but having testimonials or a video on your site helps the visitor build rapport with you and trust you, which will increase your chances of success radically. It's up to 100% in some cases. Even a video recording from a smartphone that you can post to the landing page will suffice if it's targeted and addresses the customer's big problem. Now, here's the part where I may lose some of you, so get ready to get outside your comfort zone. But for this next part, you need to have them buy your product or service. You have to get them to pay for what you're offering. And here's where you're going to come back and say, well, wait a minute. I don't have my product or service fully worked out yet. I don't even have a company fully stood up, so I'm not ready. Why can't we just have them take a survey or give us feedback on what they buy or how they buy the product? Here's the reason. Statistics show that no matter how much research you do on whether or not people like your product, there is a stark difference between those that say they will buy and those that will actually buy. To do a speed run, you've got to make them buy. It's the only way to get a true read on the viability of your company's offering. Let's say that you're trying to sell a product, but the product doesn't yet exist. Okay, we'll use a hard example like a phone app. If you've got an idea for a phone app, then there are companies out there that allow you to build a prototype with no software development required. Check out Keynotopia and you'll see what I mean. You can stand that up in a weekend, get the prototype online, and speed run it. If people buy, great. If they don't, then you haven't just wasted 6 months of your life and 50 grand paying a software development company to build it so you can sell it. Do you see the power of this, folks? It's like an ancient Jedi mind trick. Take any product you can imagine that doesn't yet exist. You can build your speed run around that product. Tell everyone that it won't be available for another 4 months, leaving you enough time to build it, and offer early subscribers a massive discount. For example, this will sell for over $1,000, but those that buy now will only pay $299 for being early subscribers. It's almost like crowdfunding an idea without as much pain or hassle. But just like Luke had to confront Vader before he became a Jedi, there's only one more step you must accomplish before you can be a speedrunner. And that's the virtual handshake. In order for people to buy your product or service, they've got to get to know you. People buy from people they like or people they trust. And at this stage of the process, you've not demonstrated likability or trust. Not enough anyway to have them get out their wallet. So the call to action is to get them to take a no-risk journey to get to know you or your company. We call this a virtual handshake because it's their introduction to you and the start of the trust between the two of you. The virtual handshake is a get-to-know-you session, and it comes in many forms. We're going to now talk through a couple different forms that it could take. We put together a brief graph that you can take a look at. Do keep in mind that the suggestions on this page are ordered from what we would think is the least effective to the most effective, but we've put out a couple different options here to allow you to do the virtual handshake in a way that best suits your style. So if you do well creating content, either in writing or through video, then give away a piece of free content that solves one of their problems. One piece of content is probably enough to show them your competence and get them engaged to make a quick decision, which is what most people want to do. If you've got experience listing products or services, write those up, put them on a reputable site such as eBay or Amazon. People will automatically trust you if you're hosting with one of those types of sites. Just don't use Craigslist. If you already have testimonials, use those. If your strength is sales, then line up a phone call or a web chat to answer their questions and close the deal. But pick the style that works best for you. Make sure you put the energy and time into your virtual handshake, because if you don't follow that step, your speed run will not work. So overall, the workflow here is very simple. You go from a social media ad to a landing page to the virtual handshake to the purchase. That's it. And the purchase is obviously where you collect payment. Now look, many of you will try to skip this last step, or you're going to try and find an easier way out than get them to buy. You'll think to yourselves, I'll just have them put their name on a list saying they're interested. That's good enough for me. If you do that, then it's all but guaranteed that the atomic failure clown will start sneaking up behind you. Speedrunners don't skip the most important part of the process just because it's kind of scary. You've got to grab this by the neck and squeeze, folks. Every single step of the speed run builds up like a crescendo to one core question. Will they buy what I'm offering or not? That's all that matters. It's all that's important. Doesn't matter if they say they like what you've got or not. It only matters if they decide to purchase it. It does matter that your product's good, don't get me wrong, but they've got to buy. That's the only measure that we've got. So let's take a look now at evaluation of costs on your ads to make sure that that dog will hunt. So the way to calculate this in terms of whether or not your speed run was successful, look at the revenue you generated minus the hard costs. And that should come down to 2 to 3x, preferably 10x, of the overall ad cost that you spent. If the ad doesn't yield the results, evaluate and start again. Did you solve their big problem? Are your ads effective? Is your landing page following best practices? What can you do to get better results? With a speed run, win, lose, or draw, you've probably spent about a week and a couple $100. If your idea needs work, then you need to find that out now with the least amount of upfront costs. And that's what this technique is all about. So let's talk about funding. This is always a popular topic, though we'll need to cover it quickly in the interest of time. There's a lot of options for funding. People get hung up on the whole idea of the funding issue, and they waste countless months or even years searching for someone that will give them cash for a concept, for an idea. Speed running allows you to bypass all that nonsense. If you follow these steps, then you do not need funding at this stage of the company's life cycle. My challenge to you, make money the old-fashioned way. Earn it. Just replicate the speed run, turn up the heat on the ads and strategies that are working, and turn over your profit instantly, right out of the gate. Keep modifying the speed run and turn it into your sales and marketing campaign. You're then doing minimal risk, which means you're more than confident stepping into the unknown and taking on those risks with the revenue you're generating out of your campaigns. It's a whole lot easier than quitting your job without knowing whether or not your idea will even work, guys. So don't even think about, on the subject of funding, raising venture capital, though, until you've hit at least $100,000 in revenue, preferably $500,000 to $1 million. Before that, it's just not worth it. Investors only want to touch companies that have established revenue sources. Anything else is what we'd call Genesis funding, which is giving entrepreneurs money for ideas or concepts. Guys, no venture capitalist in their right mind would give you money for an idea. It's just not how it works. That's because ideas aren't exciting. It's the execution of the ideas that make a business exciting. Trust me when I say you're going to achieve faster and better results by replicating and improving upon your speed run than you ever will trying to raise capital in the early days. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me on that. That's okay. But I'm telling you, there's a time and place for venture capital. It's just not early on. But that's a topic for another day. As a general rule, only focus on one company at a time when you're building startups. Follow this formula. Do a speed run. Make sure it works. Once it works, commit to that idea and build a business around it. Stay completely focused on that business with the least amount of distractions possible, and make sure you're committed to sticking with it for at least a year, provided it passes the speed run. This will allow you to validate that it's a good idea, and it will give you enough runway to get through the hard times associated with building a startup. So look, the atomic failure clown, he's out there. He's going to be looking for you. We got to make sure we protect you. So we're going to give you a couple quick tips here to avoid the failure clown. As we go forward, first, only move your idea from the idea phase to the revenue phase after you've successfully passed the speed run. You don't want to get ahead of yourself. Build your business off of an existing model that already works. Replicate what somebody else did right and just add more value to it or be unique, introducing a disruptive competitive advantage. Commit to your business for at least a year to give it time to thrive. Set a target of $1 million in annual revenue within 12 to 18 months. You can do it in 12 if you've committed to this 100%, or 18 if you're holding down a day job. Focus on recurring revenue and productize only after you've hit $1 million in revenue. The reason for that is you don't want to go too quickly and trip on your own success. You want to give your business time to stabilize before you introduce the next level of change. Next, we're going to talk about an advisory group. This is something that will really tee you up for success. You really want to find an advisor or a mentor or use the buddy system. Find a way to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that can help you achieve success and enforce that accountability for success. If you're looking for a mentor, make sure that the person you're identifying is where you want to be in your life, say 3 to 5 years out. And you can have a mentor that's basically your model to shoot for. You can have somebody that's an advisor on execution. You can have somebody to monitor your accountability. This can be part of your board of directors or just people that agree to help you on your path to building your business. These are not employees. These are not people you work with every day. These are people that help push you to get past the major obstacles that are holding you back, particularly when doubt or uncertainty start to creep in. Everybody should really find a mentor or some sort of an advisory panel. Find the folks that you can model. Because if you do that, if you find those models, you can actually accelerate your success to get the results in 1/3 to 1/10 of the time as others. This is what we specialize in, is really showing people that path to be able to get off the ground as quickly and with the least amount of risk as possible. Okay, so to recap, at the beginning of this webinar, I promised to give you a step-by-step way to start your business, overcome the issues that hold most people back, avoid the common failures entrepreneurs face starting out, and grow your business without venture capital. We talked about the system that Unicorn Fuel uses to keep business owners and CEOs on the primrose path to success, how to vet out an idea with disruptive entrepreneurship, and the speedrunning technique to blast through distractions and get to the end result. Revenue. We showed you the simple 4-step formula that you can use right now to get your company off the ground and growing. If you follow these tips, you can build a multi-million-dollar business in a relatively short period of time. And that's got to be interesting to you, or else you wouldn't still be here on the webinar. So now you've got to get started. I mean, clearly something brought you here today. It could be you aren't passionate about what you're doing right now, your job, or that what you're doing has no impact on society and it's hollowing you out inside because it's meaningless work. Maybe you're already running a business and you enjoy it and you're looking to take it to the next level. It could be that you know in your heart of hearts that starting a company is the right thing for you. That if you don't take this step towards entrepreneurship right now, you'll regret it because you'll be working for someone else the rest of your life. And you're tired of being stuck in a dead-end job. You know there's more to your 9-to-5 existence than TPS reports and working to make someone else rich. If you're ready to take the next step towards transforming your life and learn all the secrets, then we've got a special offer that's only available to people that have been through our webinar. This September, we're hosting a live workshop in Los Angeles, California. The workshop is an intense, no-holds-barred, all-day event designed to unleash the full power of our techniques, strategies, and secrets. There's only so much you can cover in a 45-minute webinar after all. So what we're doing is bringing an opportunity to not just learn the basic techniques to get started, but the full-blown strategies and processes to keep your company on that growth path. It's an event that will help those just starting out and one that will help those that already have a business that they're growing. All the material covered in the workshop will be actionable. It'll be complete with spreadsheets, templates, and handouts. The idea is we're trying to provide participants with the playbook so that they can avoid the mistakes that we've made over the years and, quite frankly, that our clients have made. Avoiding just one mistake can save you months or years off your business growth and countless dollars. You've caught a glimpse of the quality of our materials today, but we're just scratching the surface. The workshop is much broader in scope and has the benefit of being experiential. Experience is absolutely the best teacher, and we've put together a phenomenal event that lines up with the most common issues we've seen over the years, the biggest stumbling blocks faced by most entrepreneurs, and the fastest path to massive success. You can find business workshops that cost thousands of dollars to attend and offer far less information, and most of it's going to be geared towards academic entrepreneurs. We're opening the doors to our webinar attendees for a discounted price of only $4.99 for those that choose to register immediately following this webinar. This not only gives you access to decades worth of success formulas, but to an actionable playbook that you can use right away to put rocket fuel into your endeavor. We'll show you ways to get 10 to 100 times your investment out of the workshop almost immediately. And even though we haven't met yet, you can probably tell I'm the type of person that gives 100% to anything I'm involved with. And this is no exception. If you elect to attend our event, I want you to get exponentially more out of our multi-million-dollar playbook than any other program, business school, or lecture you could ever attend. The difference with our program is that we have real skills from the real world. You can rest assured the money we've made has not been through writing books or making podcasts or doing seminars or even a one-hit wonder with one company. No, we've been out there in the real world making money through one and one way only, growing companies. A multitude of companies, not just one or two, for decades. What better way to learn the secrets to rapidly growing a business than from the people who've been out there in the real world making it happen? And we're the first company to have boiled that experience down to a workshop that's now available to those that have been through our webinar. Now keep in mind that entrepreneurs, business owners, corporations, anybody that engages our company for consultation and services, they're charged thousands or tens of thousands of dollars for our advice, our guidance, and the action we take. We specialize in turnarounds, primarily for stagnant or struggling companies and those that are looking for rapid growth services. That's what we do. That's how we've been able to take small startups to the multi-million-dollar level, including several that went north of the $10 million level, one that went to nearly $80 million, and most recently, one that is worth over $500 million today. Most of our companies want help preparing to sell the company, preparing for an IPO, or even to boost their valuation in advance of a liquidity event. It's because everything we bring to the table, these techniques, these strategies, they can provide you with immediate, massive help if you're looking to grow quickly and avoid pitfalls. And they're willing to pay all these other companies top dollar for the results we bring to the table. We're now broadening our reach, and we're creating a social network of sorts for entrepreneurs that are interested in starting and growing their companies. And to that end, for the first time ever, we're hosting this local workshop in LA. If you've benefited from today's session and you're serious about building your own company, getting out of the rat race, and securing your future in the most reliable and risk-free way possible, I invite you to sign up. After all, fortune favors the bold. Whatever your challenges are, we've seen them, and we can help. And again, this workshop is not put together by one-hit wonders. We have created success over and over again across a variety of industries, and we can help you create the freedom you've always wanted and you've always dreamed about. But seats at this price point are limited, so be sure to reserve yours immediately following the webinar. Now, We're going to go ahead and open up the webinar to questions. Feel free to ask anything that's on your mind about the techniques we've discussed, the program, the details, anything you want. But before we jump into questions, I want to thank you for putting your faith in us to spend an hour learning our techniques. I really sincerely hope these approaches and these techniques can help you get started with a business of your own that you can grow into a multi-million-dollar company. And if our approach resonated with you, or if you found our style refreshing, or if you found that our approach to making you successful is a breath of fresh air because it's practical and clear, let us know. We love getting feedback, and we're always looking for ways to improve.